Hey friends, I have been sharing lately about how I have been healing my relationship with religion. And a lot of people have been reaching out to me and saying that really landed with me. I want to heal my relationship with religion too. There's so much interest that I thought we've got the summer solstice fire ceremony coming up that Bryan, pastor at McFarland United Church of Christ, and I are putting on. I thought this is a great time to actually talk to Bryan because he has been such a big piece of that healing journey for me. So I just wanted to ask you some questions, Bryan, that are coming up a lot as I'm having conversations with people that are feeling like this resonates with them. So you just said that you wanted to respond to that piece about heaven and hell and judgment with a story. So I'd love to hear that.
Okay, great. It's one of my favorite stories that just makes this point really that God is love, as I had just said in that last video. There's a pastor, his name is Henry, I forget his last name. He was pastor of a church in Asheville, North Carolina, a really cool church there. And he said when he was a teenager, his dad was a very well-known mainline Protestant minister in the South. And growing up in this church and his dad being this beloved pastor, he decided that, part of his adolescent rebellion was to question his faith and really push back against his dad. So one day he comes into his house and he decides that he no longer believes all this church baloney and that he's not buying any of it, and he's an atheist. So he comes in, he thinks he's going to shock his dad, and his dad is in the bedroom polishing his shoes, just leaning over, kind of shining his shoes and looking down at his shoes, and his son says, "Dad, I have to tell you something." He says, "Yeah, what's that?" He says, "I'm an atheist." And his dad just keeps shining his shoes, doesn't miss a beat. And he looks up and he says, "Do you believe I love you?" And his son says, "Well, yeah," but kind of like, what the hell's that got to do with any of this? And his dad just keeps shining his shoes and says, "That's good enough for me." And that story to me pretty much says it all. Every human being I know, even those who are very estranged from their own essential beauty, is capable of and experiences love. If God is love, then that person, whether they consider themselves to be an atheist or whatever, or embrace another tradition spiritually, if they are loving and are experiencing love and giving love, as far as I'm concerned, the divine, as I understand, the divine is present and flowing in and through that person's life. That's good enough for me. And I think it's more than good enough for God. God is not looking for a reason or an excuse to accept us. God just wants us to experience that and be awake to it and embody it and offer it to others as much as we can. That's really all this is about. The rest is pretty much conversation.
So what is God to you?
Okay, well, anytime I'm asked that question, and I am, in one way or another pretty often, I have to start by just being honest and saying, I don't know. I mean, in any definitive sense, I can't prove anything, so another way of saying that is that I would always begin a question like that with profound humility and respect for all that can't be known in any definitive sense. That being said, I've given my whole life to this mystery and to the pursuit of it, and to trying to open my own being up more fully to the flow of what we would call God. As I've said before several times, I mean, the easiest and best answer I can give is love. But then for me, love is a concept or a word that gets thrown around a lot. So love for me as a Christian, as a follower of Jesus, which I very much am, that would be love as I see it manifested in the teachings and in the life of Jesus. Not necessarily the Jesus that people have been taught about, but the one that I have discovered in my life and in my journey. And unfortunately, there are a lot of Jesuses floating around, and some of them are, just as narrow-minded and judgmental and angry and petty and small and right-wing or left-wing as we are. And so I have to go deeper. But love and truth. Just recently, in this amazing book by a woman named Megan Watterson, called Mary Magdalene Revealed, she talks about love as the feminine divine manifestation and truth as the masculine, and that those two marry each other within us, love and truth, and then the fullness, maleness, femaleness, that which is beyond gender of the divine, shows up in us. So yeah, I think God is the presence, the experience of love and truth braided together, making love together within us.
Yeah, what you're making me think is when you talk about Jesus as having kind of all of these personas depending upon who is accessing, who's speaking, who's writing on behalf of Jesus or whatever, is what I learned in my training with shamanism, which is that there's a difference between accessing the wisdom of a figure like Jesus, who is known worldwide, whether or not you're a follower, you know who that is. There's so much projection and ideas put upon Jesus that when you access Jesus, it could be almost like you're also accessing that culmination of all of the ideas, thoughts, opinions, projections. So to actually go to the pure state, you want to access the pure consciousness of Jesus. That's something that I learned in my shamanic training that really resonated with me. So whenever I'm calling on assistance from anyone, if it's Jesus or Isis or the sun or the moon or the earth, it's always the pure consciousness of, because it's two different energies there. So I don't know what you think about that, but I just thought I'd share that because it just really sounded like something that has resonated deeply with me.
Oh, me too. I mean, just absolutely. Amen, a woman, to everything you just said.
Cool. I love finding this overlap with you. It's always so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.